Morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. This morning's learning is dedicated in memory of Ami Bas Aryeh Paul Kazmir, Shal ben Shlomo, Yirmiyahu Chir ben Moshe Eliezer, Shlomo Chir ben Moshe Eliezer ben Sion ben Yitzchak, Aryeh ben Shimon Leah Bas Faivo, Avram Mordechai ben Moshe Katna, Menashe ben Tzvi Zalman, Ralia Bas Avram Pinkus, along with everyone else who has Yortzeit today. Morning, Estelle, Mervyn, Caroline, and Clarice so far. So I want to take a little journey, a snapshot of the concept of teshuva from the perspective of Rav Kook. Rav Kook, of course, was the chief rabbi in Israel, one of the great modern Orthodox thinkers in the 19th century. And I wanted to have a look at what he says. I think it makes fascinating reading. There are many approaches to the topic, but let's have a look at what he says. If I was to ask you, how does one do teshuva? Michael, how would you answer that question? And Rachel? So I think that when I was growing up, if I'm honest, I think the concept, the way I saw it, were always influenced by the external images that we see around us. And I remember watching, I don't think it was The Godfather, but it was a mafia film of types. It could have been The Godfather. They're all pretty much the same plot. And I remember watching it and watching this mafia murderer, assassin, go into the church, and he went into the confession box, and the priest said to him, "What is it, my son?" He says, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. What have you done?" And he says, "Well, I killed a man." And the priest says, "That's a terrible thing, but you can always repent." He says, "No, not just him. I killed his wife. I killed his children. I set the man on fire with petrol." And the list and the litany of transgressions and atrocities that this mafioso has done, goes on for like 10 minutes. And the end of it, he says, "I feel tremendous regret. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned." And the priest says, "My son, we all make mistakes. You're forgiven." And I'm paraphrasing. And he walks out, and you see him adjust his suit. He feels $1 million. And he walks out of the church, gets in the car that's waiting for him with the dark windows. You can imagine the picture. And they drive off, go back to headquarters, go back to business. And of course, within 24 hours, he's back torturing and intimidating and killing people again. And of course, you see him, he goes again later on in the movie, he goes back to the church, he goes back to the priest, he says, "Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned." And I'm sure we've all seen these type of movies. And the story is one that we're all familiar with. When I was growing up, I have to tell you, I think that there is an element of that resonated with me in terms of teshuva. You come to shul, well, you do whatever you want during the year, and then you come to shul, Rosh Hashanah, you sing, you come to Yom Kippur, you have confession, we klap al chet, "Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned," and then we finish Yom Kippur. We drive off as fast as we can into the distance. The dust is flying up from the rush to get home to eat the smoked salmon bagels and the egg mayonnaise or whatever you have after the fast, right? And then the next day, it's business as usual. We're back doing what we like to do, what we want to do. I've dealt with the past. I've cleaned the slate clean, and now I can go back doing exactly what I was doing for the last 362 days or 4 days, whatever it is. Okay. Comes along Rav Kook and gives us a very different perspective to this whole thing. And he takes it from the perspective of the secret of happiness. And he says, in reality, something that we're all familiar with, and that is that there are many, many unhappy people in the world. That is why there are so many books that are promising that if you buy them, they're self-help books. There's a whole section whenever you go into Waterstones or any type of bookstore where they have a list of books that promise you that if you buy it, if you follow what they say, you are going to have eternal bliss. And we all know, having bought these books, we all have them in our homes. that it doesn't necessarily follow. And in fact, happiness is something that psychiatrists, psychologists, and humanists like Freud, Jung, Adler, Horney, Fromm, May, Erickson, Dr. Dreyer, and dozens others have become the prophets of the moment and proposing dozens of theories to explain man's existential angst and dilemmas. Okay, so that's and they come up with all different theories as to what exactly is the nature of the anxiety and the depression and the sadness that we feel in our lives. Some say it's a primal anxiety we suffer from we've been separated, from our source, from the womb. Others say it's sexual repression. Others say it's from trauma of death, and mankind is beset with a type of neurosis, and many type of antidepressants and vials of Valiums have been distributed and given out to some of the best homes up and down this country, and definitely in America. And we find in work, in the media, in the social media, that we try to deal and address this issue of sadness, depression, anxiety with blotting it out, with, I guess, being evasive, escapism, avoiding it, right? And that is through the distractions of life. In fact, the psychologist Erich Fromm, in his book, Psychoanalysis and Religion, he says that he describes an interesting photograph which captures, he says, the average person's pain. He says, it is proclaimed by many voices that our way of life makes us happy. But how many people of these times are happy? It is interesting to remember a casual shot in Life magazine some time ago. A group of people were waiting on a street corner for the green light. What was so remarkable and shocking about this picture, why did they put it in Life magazine, was that all these people who all looked stunned and frightened and had not witnessed a dreadful accident, but as the text had to explain, these are just average, regular people going about their business. So he says we pretend that our life is based on a solid foundation and ignore the shadows of uneasiness, anxiety, and confusion which never leaves us. Rav Kook, having highlighted this, comes on to explain that the source of the depression, the anxiety, the sadness in our life is not from external causes. It's not in the traumas of our childhood or the pressures of conformity or keeping up with the Jones, or should I say the Cohens. He looks beyond the social, cultural, psychological, sexual, and family dynamics to try to shed light on it. And in short, he says as follows, he says that the remedy to all these angsts is teshuva, for the individual, for the community, and for the world. And he teaches that to discover true inner joy, every person and all of creation must return to the source of existence and forge a living connection to God. When we think of the word teshuva, that in itself leads us very often. Good morning, Andy and Richard. Thank you for joining us. I think I've mentioned everyone else. When we think of the word teshuva, which we translate wrongly as repentance, we do ourselves a tremendous disservice, friends. Why? Because teshuva in Hebrew doesn't mean that. It means to return. Where are we coming from? Where are we returning to? That is going to be the subject of a lengthy discussion that you and I are going to have over the next few days and weeks. But in short, he says that the return is to go back to where we came from. Now we just need to figure out where we came from. So we came from the origin, from our source, that divine light. Then the soul that's inside us craves to reconnect and to come closer to the divine light, to the Almighty, which is where it was separated from. So therefore, the further away we are, the more we feel disconnected to our source, the more we feel the angst, the depression, the sadness, because we're missing meaning, what we were created for in our lives. And it's interesting that the true joy, fulfillment, inspiration, lasting happiness, it doesn't come from these external things. I'll tell you a little secret. I love when I want a quick fix. There are two things that we all have, our quick fixes that give us a boost of energy, or call it happiness, whatever it is. For me, there are only two: coffee and chocolate, in no particular order. I wouldn't want to offend my chocolate craving. Anyways, and when I have them, I know instantly I will get on a bit of a high. I have my chocolate rush, and I feel good. And it's something that's coming from, taking something external and trying to please or to soothe an inner craving, which is never going to work, right? I'm not really happier after I've had the chocolate, maybe for a split second, but after that, he goes. And that's because it's something external, whereas the true yearning and desire and the restlessness and uncomfortability that we feel in life, it comes because we're disconnected. It becomes because we're feeling a separation from our source. And if in any way in our lives we are able to come that little bit closer to our source, to really rediscover and reconnect with what we really are. Because if you peel away all the layers, you take away all the layers, what are we? Right? We're a soul. That's the essence of us. That's the personality. You take away the soul, the person withers and dies. That's the essence of us. As long as the soul, the breath of life, is within us, that's what we say in our prayers, that's what we believe fervently, then we are alive. And it's interesting, when you see a person die, you literally see the body crumple to pieces after the soul has departed, or as the soul is departing. So the soul is our essence, and therefore it's the soul that we need to reconnect with and to connect to its source. And if we are able to do that, please God, in the coming days and weeks, even in some small way, I think that we will have a completely different experience and year ahead. So therefore, teshuva, to go back, we don't have, I'm afraid, there is no quick fix. There is no quick fix for happiness or for when we've done things that we shouldn't have done. There is no confession box in the synagogue, not in my synagogue, and not in any synagogue, because that's not the answer. The answer is that it's internal work that we need to do to be able to really peel back the layers of dirt, staining, whatever you want to call it, like when you go to the dentist and they have to remove the plaque that builds up over the course of the year. We need to remove the plaque that has formed on our souls, and thereby be able to feel more sensitive, considerate, caring, loving, giving, which is what life is all about. Please God, we'll be able to do so, and in that way we will be able to live a greater, more fulfilling, meaningful life and be better people. And even if we can't do, it's not about all or nothing. I always say a little bit, incremental change. The difference in a football team or in a race with the Paralympics we've got at the moment, it can be literally, as long as you see growth and you see improvement year in, year out, race in, race out, you will get there. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Let's now conclude with the psalm and the memorial prayer. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days. Memorial prayer. Adon Elamim Zachois Nishmais Ami Basari Paul Casimir Shobin Shlomo Yochia ben Moshe Eliezer Shlomo Yochia ben Moshe Eliezer Ben Sia ben Yitzchak Ben Shimon Lebas Faivo Avram Molech ben Moshe Kat Menashe ben Tzvi Zalman Lebas Avram Pinker Shachol Yelamam Ana Balarachamim Tatzvim Seitz Kanafech Yelamim V'Tizov Zachai Misnishmasam V'Anucha B'Shkosam B'Shalom V'Namar Amen. Long life wishes to all. Lastly, Refuah Shlema prayer. We wishing everyone who is unwell, who needs a refuah shlema, a full and speedy recovery. The Almighty should grant you. Refuah Misha Be'Chav Zeinu Abraham Yisrael Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivayach Pesach Elim Bavo Shana Mispalim Bavo Ram Bis Chazakadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleichem Nachem Melachosam Yishlach Lem Fuishlim Shemaim Lachalvem B'Sach Shach Yisrael Refuas HaNefesh Refuas HaGuf Hashem Gizman Kariv and Amar Amen. Friends, please tell your friends that we've now started this new series. It's a fascinating journey. It's life transforming. We hope that you and your friends, members, will join us as we journey through the book of the Art of Teshuva. The holidays are over. We're getting ready for Rosh Hashanah. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place.